Their flimsy excuse was, well, as the water flows over your teeth, it may topically strengthen your teeth. Well, of course, that's silly nonsense that a fourth grader would see through. So there's no justification, but we do know, and the National Research Institute did a very comprehensive study confirming what all the opponents of fluoridation have shown, and that is that fluoride is a powerful accumulative poison, meaning that it accumulates in the body and can stay there for a lifetime. It destroys bone, increases fractures and osteoporosis. It accumulates in the brain, combines with the aluminum, produces a very neurotoxic fluoroaluminum compound. All of this is known, so you're in a quandary as to, well, if it doesn't even attain its objective, that is reducing cavities, and everybody admits that, and it has all of these toxic effects. It even increases the budding of flu virus, that is the spread of flu virus in your body. What is the purpose? What are you putting it in the water for? Why does the government send its agents to little small townships that vote not to fluoridate their water? Why do they use the expense to send government agents from Washington, D.C. To pressure these people to vote it back in and use government granting to entice them to put fluoride back in the water? What's the purpose? Well, we don't have hard evidence, but we know fluoride has a definite behavioral effect on the brain. It can produce an apathy-like syndrome. It can affect the ability to think clearly. So is it a financial deal they have with the manufacturers of aluminum and the manufacturers of fertilizers to get rid of this waste product? What exactly is it? Well, you can use your imagination, but we know one thing: it has absolutely nothing to do with dental health. The MSG in the food, the research now is so compelling that it affects the formation and development of the brain, that it significantly can accelerate a number of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and ALS, and migraine headaches, and a number of things, particularly behavioral changes in children, anger, violence. It's strongly connected to depression, particularly pathologic severe depression. So now that we know all these things and our neuroscience are connected to glutamate, why is the food filled with the glutamate additive that we know can trigger these conditions, including suicide? And that there's an interaction between fluoride and glutamate. There's an interaction between fluoride, aluminum, glutamate, and vaccination. That we know if you vaccinate an animal and expose them, for instance, to mercury, aluminum, it dramatically increases the toxicity of those two elements. So with all this abundant, hard neuroscience showing these interacting toxicities, why is the so-called protectors of the public, the EPA and the FDA, not getting these agents out of our food and halting this destructive and idiotic fluoridation in water campaign? Well, they're even talking about making it a federal law that every water system in America must be fluoridated.
Exactly. Now that the American people and the people of the world are fighting back and having it removed, and they admit it doubles the chances of adolescent males to get bone cancer, they just admit that. I've had the scientist that leads the EPA union on, and 90+% of their scientists signed a letter saying, please take it out, because, and we've gotten a tour of the Austin water supply, and the people working there agree with us. They said, yeah, we're told by the city to do this. We pay millions a year for it. And all it is the toxic waste left over from fertilizer manufacturing. They mine the limestone and then remove the chemicals they want and then leave the toxic waste. And it's over 100 chemicals they put in our water under the name fluoride. That's just so It's so insane, though, that the average person says there must be a reason for it, even though the American Dental Association now says kids shouldn't brush their teeth with fluoride toothpaste because it gives them dental fluorosis and makes the teeth shatter. My dad's a dentist. He now understands that, but if people want fluoride, he'll still give it to them. But, I mean, it's just amazing that this is going on, and we know from the literature that this is part of eugenics.
Well, we know that fluoride has a powerful effect on the reproductive system of both males and females and produces infertility and reduced fertility. We know mercury does the same thing, so you're injecting children with high doses of mercury. We know that also has a damaging effect on the reproductive organs. We know that a number of these agents that we're being exposed to affect fertility. Now, either you have to conclude, well, the government is just made up of a bunch of buffoons who choose to ignore the synergistic interaction of all these things that they're ordering into our food and water and its effect on reproduction and fertility, or they're doing it on purpose. Now, if you talk to young people, and I talked to my sons about this, I said, I've noticed that there's just an explosion of fertility claims growing all over the country because young people are having such difficulty with their wives getting pregnant. And he said, yeah, a number of his friends have had that problem because, you've either got to conclude, well, something else is in the air and the water and the food that's producing infertility for this sudden change in fertility of our young people, or possibly someone's doing this on purpose with this combination fluoride, mercury, vaccination, exposure, and glutamate exposure to reduce fertility.
But I mean, Dr. BlayLock, you in the past on this show have read amazing quotes by the Rockefellers and in their own textbooks and documents where they admit they're eugenicists and wanted to create a medical tyranny to reduce the population. And then just recently, Eco Science, the textbook written by the White House science czar, John P. Holdren, about how they would implant us with devices to sterilize us, put drugs in the water, lower our libido and sterilize us, set up a planetary government to do this, eradicate the family, using the educational system as the wedge to start that. And then since then, all these other books he wrote and government textbooks have come out describing exactly what they're now doing. And I have him in congressional hearings where Jay Rockefeller says, oh, you walk on water. Oh, you're the master planner. Oh, you're the great builder. It appears that they have adopted his plan. Now, we know there were previous ones that were similar, but it's like they treat him like a rock star when he's on Letterman, when he's before committees. And it appears that his plan from 1977 in this case was adopted.
Well, yeah, and as I told you on that previous program when we were talking about the Rockefeller Foundation and Carnegie Foundation and Ford, they were spending virtually millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on population control, eugenics, and sterilization. And if you read their literature, I'm talking about some of the most powerful, influential people in society in the 1910, 1920 era. It was very open, this call for controlling a population and reducing the level of the unfit and people without social utility. They were quite open about it. Well, they're not quite as open about it, but they're still writing about these things in the literature. And these are people that are very influential, writing in prestigious journals and magazines. If you look at the group of papers collected by the Hastings Center, which Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, the health czar for Obama, his papers are calling for this very thing, that we need to let the elderly die and stop giving them health care because they're an expense to the society and they have no right to live. Well, this was a very similar thing that we heard in the 1910s and 20s being funded on a massive scale by the Rockefeller and Carnegie and Ford Foundation. And at the same time in Germany, I'm talking about in 1910, long before Hitler came along, their society was just flooded with the same literature, and so was Austria. about the need to control the unfit and to control.
And we know who funded that, the Rockefellers, again, with the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute,
Exactly.
almost single-handedly bankrolled it, along with Thomas Watson of IBM.
And much of their literature came from the United States. They were quoting the literature that was produced by the Rockefellers and the Carnegies. So Hitler grew up in a society that openly was discussing the need to eliminate the unfit and the people that were disabled. This
That's right.
bill,
Hitler thought the U.S. and England were going to join him. And that's why the King of England, Edward VIII at the time, was a Nazi, and Hitler was on Time magazine, and, man, he's doing a great job sterilizing and killing the retarded kids, and, my God, we need to have more of this here, and we can drug the water, and then they went underground, and now they're doing it to us, and the general public better wake up.
Well, the problem with the average person is they're not reading what these people are writing, because they're openly writing about a lot of this now.